Hey y'all, I'm Cody, it's time to catch up. Grab your headphones and fill your cup. Sports and life, I've got stories to share. Sit back, relax like you just don't care.
Welcome to the podcast, CADE, and thank you for taking time out of your day to join into this one. You know, I just I started doing this just recently, so it's kind of cool already networking with a couple different people. I do want to apologize. I had to kind of switch things up on you from last week, but
Oh, no worries, no
um,
worries. I apologize too for not having the script ready. I had a little bit of a health
this
scare.
is like I said, this is our first time meeting, so I mean, I guess tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Cade Poland. I'm originally from Muskegon, Michigan, which is where I'm at right now. I went to Michigan State University from 2018 to 2022. Graduated summer of 2022, moved down to Dallas, Texas to start my career down there. I worked for a company that actually, Stellantis, who's in Auburn Hills, as their big automotive client. They moved me back to Detroit. So that's where I spent the last 3 years as an engineer. I was actually just laid off in November of 2024 and then officially laid off in January 15th, 2025. So, yeah, but that's just how I kind of started, you know, finding content creation, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah, it's been a journey, been a lot of different places. I'm actually slated to start my master's at University of Michigan in the summer. So
Nice,
um,
nice. Looks like you've been all over the place. I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny that like I've seen some people, that either, they quit their job or lose their job or whatever it is, and they just kind of take up social media and um I know I just had somebody recently on who yeah, kind of did that and it's like it takes guts. I mean, even like for you, I mean, obviously I'm sure you're, doing more than just doing the social media stuff, but I mean, to
mhm.
even take it where you're at. I mean, it takes guts and I give you guys props for doing that. I mean, I don't know if I could ever do it. Um, just because like I mean, with how busy my schedule is now and just like I'm still kind of learning the algorithm and all this social media stuff anyway. Um, but yeah, I mean, good for you for where you're at. I mean, I've been, following you for a little bit and I mean, even the views that you get, and I know it's not always about the views and everything, but it's like I mean, you're doing hella good on these views. I'm like, damn, I get like 200. I'm like, all right, I'm feeling good about myself. And then I see people like you that are getting thousands. I'm like, all right, well, obviously I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, hey, well, it definitely comes and goes. I have videos that completely flop, and then I have, you know, TikToks that do sort of well. I see a lot of other huge creators getting, thousands and almost hundreds of thousands of views every single post. And, it's kind of funny that, um, you almost think that my views are good, and then I'm looking at other people's views. I'm like, man, my views aren't good. But, it's cool to see that. And, you know, I, uh, I remember when I first started content creation, and honestly, to connect with what you just said about people getting into it. I definitely think it's the future. I think it's the future of everyone's income and lifestyle. And I think if you want to be affluent in the future, it's definitely something to chase. And, I think for me later on, I definitely want to be an entrepreneur. And I think content creation is the one-way ticket there. Obviously I'm continuing my education just to have that with me, but, um, the main goal is to be able to work for myself one day. And when I look at content creation, it's a one-way ticket to that, and it's a lottery system. It's a
Oh yeah.
lottery system with no upfront cost, and every day you just post something. Whether it's one post at least, or maybe you want to put a few posts out there. And I definitely want to look at doing that eventually and exploring other, platforms, not just TikTok. Right now, I'm focusing on TikTok a little bit just because I like
Gotcha.
the algorithm there a little bit more than other platforms. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
still like I said, I'm still trying to figure out the algorithm, but I'm hoping I'll get there eventually. It's funny because I started doing this just as like a YouTube, just as a podcast thing, because I used to do one with my buddy, in between our schedules and everything. It just didn't really end up working out. But I'm like, I've always thought about doing podcasting and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
once me and him did it, I was like, okay, at least I know what setups because he really had all the setups. He had pretty much everything, and all I'm doing is on a laptop with a second monitor, so it's nothing too crazy. But it's like, now that I knew kind of what it is going into it, I'm like, all right, I can keep doing this. And
Eh,
then
eh,
the TikTok was like, I'm like, oh, I'll post, just the clips because I've seen that on some of the podcasts that I've watched. They just post the clips and
yeah.
stuff, and then I'm like, you know what? Why don't I keep trying on TikTok and just see where it goes. And I mean, I just hit 100 followers just the other day, which I know isn't a huge milestone, but I mean, it was funny. I was telling my girlfriend, I'm like, I hit 100 followers. And then I thought about to myself, I'm like, that's really nothing. And she's like, well, no, you have to start somewhere to get where you want. And
Hey,
again, like I said, it's not like I'm doing this as a full-time job. It's just a hobby. So it's not like, you know, hey, we need to do this, do this, do this because this is the only income coming in. Um, but I mean, yeah, I do get hard on myself, but I need to also look at those little milestones of like, 100 followers, 150, and you got to start somewhere to get to
hey,
the top.
yeah, hey, Cody, you know what? I'm still small too right now, and you and I are doing things that most people would never even have the guts to do, and that's the start, and you got to start somewhere. You got to post. I mean, you got to try, and
Yeah.
that's where we're at right now. And you're already ahead of 95% of people because you see, I have so many friends and other people that I know that they they're scared to even show their face on an account, and that speaks a lot. And by the way, out of curiosity, what do you do outside of content creation?
Yeah, so I actually work for a lawn and garden company, just selling parts and doing all that stuff. So I do that as my full-time job. And then honestly, I mean, once this weather starts getting better, we gotta, you know, it seems like all four seasons are coming in at one time today.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, just, hanging out with buddies. But yeah, I mean, mostly just working full time, just trying to, our next goal for me and my girlfriend is trying to find a house. So trying to do that. But yeah, I mean, busy just working. And like I said, I mean, any free time I get to do this stuff, it's a good thing to do. I'm trying to, you know, get it as a hobby and it gives me something to do rather than just sitting doing nothing after work. So,
And eventually, Cody, you keep building these blocks every single day, it's gonna eventually take off, and
yeah.
then one day you're gonna look back at it and you're never gonna have to work another day in your life, and this is gonna be your life. And that's the dream and that's the goal and that's the vision. I see it with myself, I see it with you, I see the progress that you're making, and I just knowing you for this short period of time, man, I'm proud that to see that from you. And I see the effort you're putting in every single day,
Thanks,
and
man.
and
Yeah,
that
that
and,
means a
and
lot
that's
hearing
what
that from content creators. I mean, and it's funny because like I look at you like obviously a bigger content creator than I am, so it's kind of nice hearing that from you guys, like people like that, because it's like, I'm just a small guy, like I said, just doing this out of my spare bedroom with a laptop. So it's kind of nice to hear
I.
stuff like that.
And hey,
And
that's all you need. All you need is a laptop and a screen. I have these headphones that just help me, but I don't have anything super special. I have like another cheap camera that I use to record my face, my talking videos. But all these creators always talk about needing all these fancy equipment. You really don't. You just need to be authentic. And I remember when I remember I always wanted to start creating content, but I was always kind of scared to do so. And this was back in late 2022. And I just moved to Auburn Hills, and I was like, man, I really want to start doing this, but I'm a little scared. I don't know how to. And then I kind of just kept thinking about it all across 2023. And then one of my buddies was like, hey, man, like you really need to start doing this. And so I remember at the time I had some really cheap laptop that it was breaking down, and I had saved up a little money. I actually I work as an engineer in for my 9 to 5, so that's my main gig right now. But right now I'm laid off. But I
yeah,
was an engineer, and so I had some money saved up. So I bought a MacBook just because I'm like, hey, I gotta start fresh. And that's when I started really playing around with like CapCut and Final Cut Pro. I don't know if you know what those softwares are, but
yeah, yep.
and that's some professional grading video editing software. But that's when I started really posting. I think that was January or February of 2024. So
Okay.
I've been going over for a little over a year now. I haven't been consistent with it until recently, until I said, hey, I think towards the end of 2024, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna really start posting every single day onto TikTok and start with TikTok for sure, and I want to branch out to Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. But TikTok for me, when I look at the social media platforms right now, and this is one of the biggest pieces of advice I heard from one of my mentors, and he kind of referred to the job market for this, but he said, go to where things are hot. And right now, where I see things are hot is TikTok, from 2019, 2020 when that started really taking off. And I think YouTube is still the king. I think YouTube is the king of everything. It's like
Yeah.
when you compare social media platforms, compare YouTube and TikTok, where YouTube is like New York City and TikTok is like Austin, Texas. And right now, New York City is on top, but Austin, Texas is still growing rapidly, and
Yeah, yeah,
that's
that's
where
a
I
good
see
way to put it.
TikTok. Yeah. And, I do think posting on every platform is the best way. And that's something that I'm going to eventually do. I got to learn YouTube a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, you're headed in the right direction. I think in that sense, you're doing really good right now because I see that you're really hitting everything. You have your YouTube and your TikTok, and that's what matters the most. So
Yeah,
I like to see that.
and it's funny because like the toughest thing, like even yesterday, posting a video on TikTok, and I forget that like, people look at Instagram Reels, YouTube. I've been trying to post some shorts on YouTube, but I don't really
Hmm.
know how well that, people use that right now. But yeah, it's just
Hmm.
like I have to just keep telling myself that like whatever you post on TikTok, you have to be posting on, Instagram. And like so I'm starting to get better with that. But yeah, I mean it's it's a lot of work. So like I said, I mean, I give you props for what you're doing. I mean, it definitely seems like you're taking this to the next step, even higher than what I'm doing. I mean, you're trying to make this your career, honestly. And like,
Eventually, that'd be the goal, and I love the creative aspect of it. I come from a background of, engineering and math where it's very, logic based. It's not very creative based, and I never really felt like I completely fit in with other engineers and other people like that where I have a really big creative side of myself, and that's where content creation came up, and I'm like, man, like I gotta try, and here's the thing, like, yeah, maybe it doesn't work out, but at the same time, like, if you dream big enough and you work hard enough, it is gonna work out eventually. So,
for sure, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like, what do you think is the hardest part since you started doing content creating? Is it just like the setup of it, or is it just like, kind of like what we both said, like if our views aren't hitting where we want it to be, like, it kind of puts a wrench in things and like kind of makes you like think like is the stuff that I'm posting what people want to hear, or because, I'm just starting, I obviously haven't hit that ladder yet of where I need to be.
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. I think it's a battle every day, and Um, eventually, some days you feel a little down because hey, maybe a video didn't do as well as you wanted to. I had a TikTok yesterday that didn't do that great, and sometimes that battle's like okay, like maybe am I missing something here? Is this not meant for me or whatnot? But I think to me, like you have to stay in that mindset of no matter how well your videos do, you just keep going, and that's the key to everything. And Mr. Beast posted 400 and what 55 videos before he even took off, and I'm sure that he had plenty of flops. That's literally like what 454 flops before he actually,
Yeah, before
you
that's
know,
crazy. And
um,
that's yeah, that's kind of how I have to think of it. Like you
yeah,
and me both is kind of like, yeah, like you said, I mean, if you post 455 videos and one goes viral, that's all you need. I
yeah,
mean, and that's what I kind of got to see with a lot of these, content creators and stuff like that. Um, I mean, I know a lot of the sports people are doing podcasts now too. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, like podcasting, I think is like the new wave, and I know you kind of touched on that earlier when we were talking, but yeah, and it's funny because like some of my podcasts that I talk about, it's more like sports life related, but I mean, I'm hitting like 50, 60 views. So like part of me is like, all right, well, there's people out there that want to listen to what I'm talking about.
yeah.
And there's sometimes that I'll be making a video and I'm like, who's gonna listen to this? But I mean,
Hey,
it's there's people out there.
from the short time I've known you, you're pretty well spoken. So, it's the everything's flowing. And by the way, I'm a big sports fan too. I know you're a Michigan football fan, and I'm a Michigan State fan, football and basketball, and I love the NBA too, and all that too. So I'm a huge sports fan. I even watch some European sports like cycling. I'm a big Tour de France fan.
Okay.
But I love Michigan State. I think it's probably my number one football and basketball. And then I actually I lived in Dallas for a bit, and then I have some family members down there, so I was a Mavericks fan for a little bit. And I like the Pistons though too. I'm glad to see the Pistons are on track, and I'm hoping that they do well going forward here.
Yeah, we can
But
only hope. Were you I know you said when you went to Dallas you were a Mavs fan, but when Luca got traded, were you like upset about it, or you're not like that much of a diehard fan?
I'm not that much of a diehard fan, but I'll tell you this: it really upset me from the Mavericks standpoint that it just felt a little bit of a betrayal. And I know Luca has some issues with his dieting and whatever, but he he's a generational talent, and to tell people that he just doesn't have what other athletes have and then trade him is was
Yeah.
very disrespectful. So yeah, I mean that definitely hit me a little bit and it made me a little angry, but it is what it is. It's business and it's sports in general. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it is kind of funny when, when they were talking about his conditioning and everything. I'm like, I'm sorry, but if this man's dropping 40 points a night and he's not in shape, clearly I got to get something figured out because I
Yeah.
can't drop 40 points and be in the shape that I am. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like you
Well.
said though, it is a business, unfortunately. There was just one question I had here. Like, so when you make your videos and everything, and I struggle with this part of like want to either the first or second time making like a TikTok video, I want it to be the perfect one.
Mhm.
But obviously that doesn't work. How long do you usually, sit down and actually work on your content creating stuff? I mean, again, I know you said that this is what you want to be as a career, so it's probably definitely more time than what I spend on there, but just kind of out of curiosity.
Yeah, so I feel it's kind of funny because everyone preaches getting up early and attacking the day, and I feel the most creative at night. So I film a lot of my videos, 9, 10 o'clock at night. In some of my videos I just do, one take. It's like a conversation into the camera. I don't ever script any of my videos. All I do is maybe I write down a couple notes of what I want the video to be about, but
Gotcha.
I don't really do a ton of scripting. I'm trying to get away from that a little bit just because it sounds a little bit robotic in front of the camera. But yeah, I just sit down and I do spend, a lot of time, especially since I'm laid off right now, but I do spend a lot of time filming. Maybe I'll do like, two or three topics at night and try to get 2 or 3 videos out and get those filmed. And I've been really experimenting with color grading too on Final Cut Pro, and I don't know.
Gotcha.
Are you
Yeah,
are you a Windows or Mac guy?
Windows. I have
Windows.
noticed on your videos for sure. I'm like, dude, and it's obviously probably the equipment too, but like the quality of your videos. I'm like, dude, these are really cool. And like I've kind of like it's funny, then I'll look at mine and I'm like, ooh, I got a lot of work to do. But
You don't need that kind of quality. I bought a Sony ZV-E10, which is a nice camera for content creators. So if I ever would recommend you to get some kind of camera that is the number one camera for it's that camera. And then
okay,
I paired it up with another a lens called the Sigma 16 millimeter f1.4, and that's a little bit expensive. That's like $400, but that's like my go-to setup right now. And I just wanted something. I really wanted to learn videography, so that's why I got that camera. It's not necessarily that I need it, and I don't think that content creators necessarily need that kind of expensive setup. I'd say that setup is about a little over $1,000.
gotcha.
Um, but you don't need some crazy setup. I think for me, I just love video editing too. For you use Windows, so I'd recommend if you want to don't go down that route to get like DaVinci Resolve is like the main one for
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I've heard that one a couple times. My brother's really into like photography and stuff like that, so I've been going to him for some tips and stuff like that too. But yeah, I've heard that one's a good one. I need to just finally put some money into doing this content stuff. That's my problem is like I'm just using the free version of CapCut
Hey,
But
that's honestly, CapCut is very effective. I'd even like if you're gonna put a little bit of money into something, I'd even get CapCut Pro, which is like $10 a month.
okay,
Which is that's what I use, and it gives you everything of CapCut. I really like CapCut. What I usually do is I will film something and then I will put it into Final Cut Pro and just kind of splice it up and color grade it a little bit. And you can do that with CapCut too. I just use Final Cut Pro just because I want to learn the heavy duty softwares right now, just in case for
okay.
the future. But you can do that in CapCut, and I'll slice the video and cut out some stuff, and then I'll color grade it. Then I'll adjust the audio so to make the voice a little pop a little bit more, and then I'll throw in a CapCut, throw in some captions, and yeah. I mean. That's all you really need. You don't need I think some people always preach having this very monstrous expensive setup and I guess if you wanted to get like later down the line. I think if you're just starting and it's a hobby right now, just use what you have and then, progress slowly, get a few items here and there. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now is like continuing with what I have right now. And then once I save up a little bit more money and get a little bit more further and build up a little bit more of a following, then that's when you start putting in some of that money into some other equipment and, just a slow progression,
Yeah, and
and
that's kind of how me and my buddy were because we were
yeah.
like, dude, let's get the everything we need to make the perfect podcast. And then, I kind of brought it up to him like, dude, if this only goes for like it only lasted like a month or two. I'm like, if this only goes for a month or two, we're gonna have all this equipment that we have no use for. And he's like,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess that's a good point. So like that's kind of what I'm thinking of right now is like, you know, until like either this starts bringing in money or, I really want it to be like more than just a hobby, then that's when I'm like, all right, I'll start putting in, the money to get better equipment and stuff like that. And obviously, you got to spend money to make money, so that's where I'm kind of like right on the fence there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, and that's eventually what I'm gonna do too. Is not getting too many things right now, but slowly just progressing, to get there. And I do like that quote. You need to spend some money to get more money. I think that's kind of a mindset that I'm trying to shift into because I've always been kind of like like a save every penny, kind of
yes.
like a money hoarder, and I'm trying to shift out of that a little bit just to enjoy my life a little bit more. And I don't think your life should just all be all about just saving every penny until you're 70, and I think
Yeah.
some people kind of treat it that way. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I'm even that way with like when we go to the grocery store, like I'll be like, do I really need this? And my girlfriend's like, it's $3. And I'm like, yeah, but like we can use $3 somewhere else. So it's like,
yeah.
yeah, but we just need to, you know, spend the money where you need to, but like, yeah, I mean, it'll all work out. But
Hmm.
um, so I know like me just starting out, I've had some negativity from people. Have
Hmm.
you had that at all? And how do you kind of deal with that?
So this is one of the biggest points of content creation, and you're always going to get some haters or negativity. It's just always going to happen. It doesn't matter what you post. It doesn't matter how positive you come off. There's always going to be someone in the comments that is, I just last week I had people in my, TikTok comments saying, making some, borderline just condescending, comments. And that's just all part of the game. People do that. And the one thing you got to think of when you see this stuff is that people who are doing better than you and people who are like, let's say, the biggest content creators in the world will never do that to you. They'll never do that to you. And it's a it's a sign that whoever is making those hate comments are insecure and they're not doing as well as you because they see other people trying new things and they want to bring them down. And that's the kind of mindset that you always have to have is like there's always going to be someone that is going to be hating. And that person is always almost always, below you in some way, shape, or form where they're, maybe they have something in their life that's happening that's not going well, or maybe they're too scared to put their face on a screen. So they see other people, and they put them down. And that's just all part of content creation. People just hate, 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 and you gotta block them out. And I usually kill them with kindness, or I'll like comment back and say, hey, can you explain a little bit further? And some of them will like, I'll come back at them and have some kind comment back, and they'll just delete their comment because they're like, hey, this is not working and this is not shaking this person. So,
Yeah.
um, there's just a lot of people out there that, they don't have the guts to do what, what you're trying to do, and they see that you're trying to do that, and they're like, oh, I don't want this person to become successful, or they look at it negatively that way. So you gotta exit them out, man. You gotta block them out, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was doing too. And I mean, even like with the likes, like I know it's not like a negative thing, but like even when I get low likes, it's like, dang, a couple of my videos before were getting, 10, 15 likes. Now they're down to 2, 3. So it's like,
Hmm.
it's not like they're hating or negative. It just to me it feels like, okay, well, am I getting, bored? Are they getting bored of what I'm doing?
Yeah, and sometimes, like sometimes your content's not going to resonate with people, and sometimes it resonates with yourself, but then it just whatever people it's hitting on the For You page, it's just not resonating with, and that's just all part of the content too. You gotta find ways around that, and sometimes it's just consistency. Sometimes it's just keep putting stuff out there. That's the name of the game, is just being consistent. And um sometimes your content's just not, people are just not going to be like, oh, like I don't find this idea interesting, and I'm going to keep scrolling. But that's just the name of the game. And one thing I want to talk about too is consistency. It's the name of the game in anything you do, whether it's going to the gym or content creation or whatever it may be. Staying consistent. And there's another topic I want to talk about too, called the flywheel topic, the flywheel topic that really hits home for me, and that is, you want to keep, and I see you're kind of you're kind of doing it too, where you're posting every single day. And when you start posting every single day, let's say I post a video every single day, it starts to become easy, because you have that momentum, that what I call is the flywheel, and that keeps spinning. And once you get that flywheel spinning, it just keeps going, and all you have to do is keep putting that effort in every day, and it becomes automatic. For me, when I first started posting, it was very, very hard to the work I was trying to put in, and I'm like, man, I want to post 3 videos this week, but that's going to be difficult. That's almost too much for me. But now I'm posting a video every single day, and it's easy. It's like, hey, I know what I'm doing. What I do is I'll record at night, upload it to my computer, and then edit it during the day, maybe a little bit. Sometimes it takes me just a few minutes to edit things, and then I just throw it up. And there are still difficulties here and there. Like sometimes I'm just not feeling creative, and that happens a lot, where I sit down in front of the camera. I'm like, I have to keep turning the camera on and off, because I'm like, man, this is just not coming out right, and I'm just not feeling
Yeah.
creative. But it's a lot easier than it was before, and that's
Yeah,
because of
no, I
the
actually just went
flywheel.
through that what you were saying just the other day is like I kind of sat the phone down in front of me and like, I would record like a 30-second thing or I'd record like 10 seconds and I'm like if I'm not enjoying it, I know the people that I'm going to give it out to aren't going to enjoy it. So,
Hmm.
and my kind of the one thing I really need to start working on is like being more um like excited and just like expressing everything like when I'm talking. Like,
Hmm.
sometimes I'll have videos that I've looked back at and it's just like a monotone video. And I'm like, okay, well, no, obviously this is why it didn't get views because you're not, you're kind of making it to where it's like, it sounds like you're burned out of doing the video. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't expect somebody to take time out of their day to watch a video if I didn't really want to put the effort into it.
And speaking of that, Cody, too, and sometimes it's just better to put content out, even if it's not your best work. And, obviously put some effort into it and try to make improvements over the year, or whatever, like slow improvements. But sometimes, like, I see a lot of people, and I used to do this too, where, I had some content that, I just didn't like. And I had the option of either A, posting this content today, or waiting and not posting at all. And it's gonna hurt you a lot more if you just don't do anything, because there's a lot of people out there like, hey, I want this video to be perfect, and they wait a week to post it. Instead, they should be posting every single day and then making those improvements there, because that's gonna keep you consistent. And you know, at the end of the day, if you get to a certain, let's say you're working on something one day and you're like, I want to post it tonight, and then you get to tonight and it's not your best work, and you maybe don't feel great about it, you should still post it, because you want to keep that flywheel going. And obviously, it's a little different with like YouTube videos and stuff, because YouTube videos, you want to put in a little bit more work than TikToks, obviously. But,
Yeah.
you know, TikToks and Reels and stuff, just try to make it your best. And then just post it. And that's all about perfectionism. I used to be a big perfectionist where um I would wait so long to post something, and I'm like, man, I need to retake this 5 more times, but that means I'm gonna have to not post anything today, and then your page is blank, and it's all about action over inaction.
Yep. And
Action,
that, yeah, go
the
ahead.
only thing that's ever gonna happen, things are ever gonna happen for you is action, and for me, action is posting. For some people, it might be I don't know, a project they're working on. Maybe I remember when I was an engineer at a one of these internships, this small company, there was this prototype we were working on, and it was due by the end of the week to this large name company, and I kept trying to take so long to try to make it perfect instead of trying to just deliver the product, and you just sometimes you just gotta post, sometimes you gotta post. Obviously, make those improvements and don't post like crappy content or whatever, but um you know what, just keep going, keep that momentum going, and whatever it takes.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm gonna this month I want to try to post each day, and hopefully make each video better and better. Um, but it's just yeah, I mean it's work, but in the long run it's all gonna work out. Said you're gonna do this full time. I mean, I guess give me kind of a quick little, you know, foreshadowing of what you think the next couple months are gonna be.
Yeah, so I'll tell you like where I think content creating is going and whatnot. For me, it's just taking it day by day, not seeing the whole staircase right now, but just trying to keep that flywheel going and incorporating new ideas that I have every single day, whether that's, editing or new video styles or whatever it may be, just keep the ball rolling and seeing just the next step, not so much the whole staircase. Obviously, I want to make this full time eventually. But just to keep the ball rolling. And for me, where I see content creation going is, and this is my, master plan, I would say, is make a business around your audience. So whether that's coaching or whatnot, eventually, you want to make some kind of personal brand. You hear that term thrown out a lot, and what a personal brand is pretty much a business. It's pretty much, you're selling something or offering some service, or I know there's a lot of gurus out on TikTok who are abusing it, and it's just, quick money schemes, but you can make some you can I know some people who have built businesses around this, and to me that is the name of the game. I think I look at there's two types of content creation. There's the one I just told you about, building a business around your audience, and then there's being an influencer. And being an influencer is basically, making money from the platform from your views. And I think that's starting to not go out of style, but that's a really niche, hard path to follow. The path that's best for you is building a business because you don't need as much followers. By the way, thank you for this conversation. It's an honor and privilege to be here. So it's been a good conversation so
Yeah.
far.
Honestly, I mean, I should be saying that to you. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's these larger and TikTok people and content creators that, and like honestly, like I was just throwing it out there, like, hey, I've seen your content, and there's a couple people that I've sent out to that ignore me, and there's some people that say no, but I mean, like, I appreciate you taking your time. Like I said, I mean, this is
hmm
this is pretty much your career path, so you're taking time out of your career to, give me the time, and again, just being 100, following uh content creator. I mean, there I wouldn't have been surprised if people were like, you know what? Hey, I mean, I don't have
Hey,
anything related to you or whatever, but, and that's kind of what I'm, looking for content creators that like relate to me, because I'm like, we can have these conversations and help each other grow. So
yeah, yeah,
definitely
that's
appreciate you being
perfect.
on for
This is
sure.
this is the first podcast I've ever been on, so um, it's pretty cool to experience this and to kind of see how this flow goes. When you're listening to podcasts, in the car or whatever, maybe you're listening to like Joe Rogan or whatever. It's interesting to see how the conversation flows, and I just never really knew how to get into that. And this is the first time I've kind of been in that position, so
Yeah.
it's cool to experience.
Hey y'all, I'm Cody, it's time to catch up. Grab your headphones and fill your cup. Sports and life, I've got stories to share. Sit back, relax like you just don't care.